Hi, everybody. This is Paul from We Love Games. I wanted to put out my thoughts and recap and review of Episode 7, The Dark Along the Ways, for Amazon and Sony's Wheel of Time. I also wanted to let everybody know, if you're enjoying my content, please feel free to like, subscribe, and also you can follow me on Twitch. I tend to stream on there weekdays, usually about 11 a.m. until about 2 p.m. in the afternoon here in Eastern Time. So without further ado, let's move on to the review of the most top secret episode, because unlike all the other ones, this was the first of the episodes that we did not get a title drop for, and we also did not get a lot of details. And I believe that this was the first one of the first episodes that they filmed post-COVID. So we got a lot to talk about. So first bit is Matt's gone. So he is officially gone, no longer a part of the group, at least directly, but we do get a lot of pining over it. We get the group arguing about it constantly. The show actually starts with that, but we're gonna get into the cold open, and we'll move on from there. So the cold open is the blood snow, exactly what I was hoping would happen. We get a full, nice little combat scene, getting to see how efficient the Aiel are at fighting. And you have an Aiel warrior maiden just kicking the crap out of all these, out of all the companions. So we are full book spoilers. So these are the Illianer companions. She is single-handedly defeating almost all of them. And she's trying to find a place to escape to give birth because she's feeling labor come on. And she ends up getting stabbed, but she also ends up killing the same man that stabbed her, and then she goes to give birth, and we see the Heron Mark blade, and it cuts away. Now, this was a brilliant cold open. It was action-packed. It was interesting. We got to see how the Aiel fight. There were some moments, again, I know that they're doing this for a dynamic style when it comes to the overall shooting of the show, but whenever they do that thing where like they go to swing and they miss, but then it's like everybody takes a moment to like breathe, and then they turn the camera and they start fighting again. I'm not sure if I'm really into that. It just seems a little off-putting. I understand why they're doing it, because they're trying to show dynamics and it's like a freeze frame for the audience, but the problem is it doesn't flow naturally for, at least me as an audience member. Maybe some people like it, I don't know. But the choreography of the fight is awesome. It's just the difference is that you're running into, like, again, we're talking about camera panning and all that stuff. It doesn't really matter. The big point is that we get to see this nice action scene, and we get confirmation that Tam finds her. Now, a few things detrest away from change from the books, but we'll get into those as we progress. We cut into the ways, and exactly as I predicted in my last video, we were going to get 15 minutes in the ways. I shouted when I looked at my watch and realized that we were dead on 15 minutes into the episode. They were out of the ways. But within the ways, we notice that there's Trollocs in the ways, so we get the explanation finally to the audience of how the Trollocs got to the two rivers, which has been a constant mystery that's been going on throughout the entire season. And past that, we also see that the Trollocs are defacing the guidings. And they mention several times that it's impossible for Trollocs to be along the ways. They don't ever say why. It just kind of, by default, they just say it's impossible, which, if we go back to, and again, there's other points where, they blatantly state, you can't just channel inside the ways because it calls Machin Chin, and then Moraine channels in the ways to open the gateway back open. Again, it's one of those things that I know is going to rub the audience the wrong way, at least the purists for the book readers, and some readers are going to have a little bit of trouble with that. My personal opinion is possibly they have to open the gateway that way through the ways, and then when they get to the end, they have to open it real quick before Machin Chin descends. But again, this is kind of a little odd, but it's something I can live with, because honestly, I don't see us going back to the ways for another season, potentially. So it's not a huge problem. But once they get out of the ways, or they're about to, Trolloc tries to attack, and Egwene channels to push away the Trolloc. And she apologizes. She didn't mean to channel. And because she didn't mean to channel, she, Machin Chin descends and starts doing what Machin Chin does. Now, the thing is in the books, again, we have other adjustments here. In the books, if Machin Chin gets you, it's kind of like Mashadar in in Shadow Logith, where Machin Chin, like, kind of, it will just consume you and destroy you and make you go mad. But we never get an account of someone directly having an interaction with Machin Chin. And there is a theory that I'm working on, which is that potentially that Machin Chin is Fane. I don't know why that's my theory, but they kind of cut to a flash. There's a flash of Fane in the ways, very blatantly, and then it looks like he disperses like a swarm of insects. And so that's kind of cool. And the swarm of insects looking stuff is what Machin Chin is. And Nynaeve pushes it all away, but as the Machin Chin is in them, they start hearing themselves speaking to themselves in a distorted voice, pretty much announcing their innermost turmoils. Like, again, stating things like Perrin, killed Layla specifically to get her out of the way because he loved another woman. How no one will ever love, like Egwene will never love Rand as much as he loves her. Egwene feeling like she's not going to amount to anything, and Nynaeve saying that she's going to lose them all, and Moraine saying that her quest is a farce. We don't hear Lan's inner turmoil, which is interesting. But then Nynaeve kind of explodes with all of her, as Waddup calls it, Super Saiyan powers, and pushes away all the Machin Chin so Moraine can open the gateway. So they get out of the ways within, as I said, 15 minutes. Exactly what I said was going to happen, because we had a lot of episode in this episode. And there was a ton, way more than I was actually anticipating in this particular episode. So we end up in Faldara. We get another brief explanation from Faldara. I'm very upset that this was the last time that Loial talked, but Loial had 3 lines, so we're at 3 stars already, just by default. Loial talked 3 times, Loial gets 3 stars. We get to Faldara. We get introduced to Uno, as well as, Uno isn't named, and neither is the other Shinaran, but we get introduced to them, and they lead them to Lord Agomar. Lord Agomar is very pretentious. He seems like he wants to know everything in the room, and he talks over people, and he, just comes across like a jerk, honestly, when he's first introduced. And he humbly apologizes after Moraine puts him in his place, because he's suspecting that his, as we find out later on in the episode, his formerly accepted sister it might have, like, he states, she must have written to the tower saying, we're destined to have the blight descend on us and blah blah blah. And Moraine says, that's not why I'm here, and he apologizes and welcomes them into the tower. And we find out that the person doing the little swooshy movement and lighting the torches as they walk through the hallway is, in fact, the sister of Lord Agomar. Unfortunately, I don't know her name. I think it's Amathera, or no, it's not Amathera. It's A something. I forget her name. I apologize. But she gets told by Moraine to send word to the White Tower to find Matt Cawthon and send word to the Red Asha. We also at this point get her revelation that she's formally accepted. And she wasn't strong enough to become an Aes Sedai. So we get all this intrigue right there, where Moraine is clearly sending out feelers to find Matt, because she at this point still does not know who the dragon is, and she states several times when the group confronts her in the ways that he made his choice. He elected not to go into the ways with them. That was his choice, so we are going to move on, because obviously the pattern willed it this way. And that's how Moraine is. She lives by the pattern, she dies by the pattern. That is just how Moraine works. And so she progresses through and continues through the ways and all that, and they go through, and everybody is in Faldara now, and they have this big confrontational meeting, pretty much. Well, that's later on in the evening, because Moraine insists on speaking with Min. So this is the first time we're introduced to Min. So Min is, from the books, she's in Baerlon. So she's significantly earlier in the show, or in the context of the story, in the books. She's actually there, I think, by chapter 10 or 11. I can't quite remember. But chapter 10 of book 1, you kind of get introduced to Min, and then she's gone for a while, and you don't see her again until book 2. So, all that going on. But apparently, Min is in the city, and she is known by people that know that she is a seer. That apparently she can see glimpses of the pattern, And she'll tell you if you ask her to, and we find that out later because she even states it to one of the characters later on, tell me straight to my face that this is what you want to hear. Because if you do, I will tell you, but there's no going back. And she sees some prophecies. The first bit that she sees, and one is extremely confusing, is she mentions, like, you see Perrin easy, got the wolf eyes, and that is exactly whoever commented in my prediction video that it was Min's visions. Yes, that was Min's visions. You are correct, 100%. You get the prize for deciphering that Perrin with the wolf eyes is Min's visions. She mentions a white flame over one of the girls and a gold ring. Readers of the books are understanding that this is potentially referencing Egwene as the future Amerlin, and Nynaeve linked to Lan in the way that she is through his golden ring. And then she mentions, and when she looks at Rand, in the vision, he stands up and is holding a child. Now, to those that are familiar with the books, this kind of caught me and my wife, we were both watching the show, a little bit off guard, mainly because as much as Rand has children in the story, you never see that in the books at any point. As a matter of fact, it takes until the very end of the last book for Rand to even encounter one of his potential children coming, because he meets the girl who's pregnant. And so this is like, it totally took us off guard. It's like, is Rand gonna have a kid? Like, whoa, that changes a lot of things. That's a whole nother bit of story that we don't even want to get into. Like, they're just turning the wheel hard on giving us a new turning of this wheel, but the thing is it makes sense by the end. So as the story progresses, Moraine gets no details of who the actual dragon is. Min blatantly states that they're all important to the pattern, that they're all important and they all matter together, and all the visions are strong. She clearly mentions that people with strong visions are important people. So and then Moraine confronts her because Min looks away, and she says, "You saw something for me," and we get reference to full regalia, meaning like big, crazy dress, pretty much what Suan was in the Hall of the Tower, and Min saying that Suan is she says she sees a woman in full regalia, and she will be your downfall. Now, that's very cleverly worded, because I don't think that Min knows who Suan is, or who doesn't know Suan from anybody. So she clearly, based on the secrecy that they've been going through in the show, is unaware of Suan and Moraine's relationship. So I don't think that Min is referencing Moraine here, or referencing Suan. I think that she's referencing whoever usurps Suan in the tower, if we still get that storyline. I think that the downfall is going to be whomever is sitting on the Amerlin seat when they bestow judgment. And again, if you're familiar with the books, we have a character named Elida, and Elida takes over the tower, and she is hell-bent on capturing Moraine, because Suan, the first piece of the two conspirators, was stilled and, executed, even though she escaped, and Moraine is nowhere to be found. Now, we know why she's nowhere to be found for a majority of that time, because she's technically not there, but the point is that I think that Min is foreseeing the downfall of Suan. I don't think that she's seeing the downfall of Moraine due to Suan. So that's just me putting out my feelers in terms of a theory. But past that, we move on to the evening. So there's a lot that goes on in this evening, and I kept looking at my watch, like, when are they going to cut away? When are we going to get a jump cut? When are we going to get a jump scare or some nonsense to take us out of the episode? And I kept looking at my watch. I'm like, we're only 25 minutes into this episode. We've seen Min, we've been through the ways, we've seen the blood snow. Like, what are we missing? This is insane. And this episode felt really needy to me. Like, it felt like there was a lot going on. And we get a couple other things. Moraine did advise Algamar wall up the Waygate. Now, walling up the Waygate is a reference that is way later in the books, where a character named Elaine actually tells the guardsmen to wall up a Waygate in Camelin. So that wasn't exactly said, I don't believe, in book one. But Moraine's advice is sound, and Agomar's like, yeah, we'll do that. Because Trolloc shouldn't be in the ways. That's bad. But past that, we have all the things going on with the characters. So we get this meeting between all the characters, and they all sit down, and Moraine pretty much states, I don't know which one of you is the dragon. But whichever one of you goes, that's not the dragon, you're going to die. So we either, if we take you all, then we have a higher chance of winning. But if we don't take you all, then whichever one of you is the dragon that didn't go, then the world ends. So figure that out amongst yourselves. You guys figure that out, and we'll just go. And then everybody starts baring their teeth. So Perrin steps up because Rand confronts Egwene, because Egwene is on Moraine's side, which Nynaeve points out and saying she seems like a lapdog. Why would you just agree with everything Moraine says? And the thing is, Egwene is having convictions, and she's saying exactly what's on her mind, which is, if this is the way to solve the problem, then we should do the way to solve the problem. If all of us go and only one of us lives, then that's better than the world ending. So Egwene is approaching everything extremely logically. Rand is approaching everything extremely emotionally because he doesn't want to lose Egwene. And he takes this as a sign of her being willing to leave him again, which you notice as the show progresses, this is Rand's crutch. This is what he's afraid of. His genuine fear, based on what's in Machin Chin's words, is that he will be left alone, that Egwene will not love him, and Egwene will leave him. So, with that being the case, he takes this extremely personally. She's willing to prioritize the world over his feelings and his love for her. So he's being a crybaby. But at the same time, you understand that he's emotional, because that's his character. He is emotionally tied to Egwene. But then it turns into semi-jealousy, and a statement by Nynaeve that says, stop fighting over Egwene, which ties into the whole thing with Perrin and Machin Chin's voicing. So, again, Machin Chin stated that Perrin killed Layla blatantly to get her out of the way because he had feelings for another woman. Now, the thing is that what Machin Chin does in this case is takes the biggest non-truths in your head that you sometimes listen to, and everybody does this, where we, put ourselves down. But Machin Chin apparently takes those and puts them at the forefront and makes you say them to yourself, which is terrifying, and you can understand why that would make you go mad. But Perrin is stating that he never had feelings for anybody except for his wife, and he states it very clearly. Now, do we know? No. But at the same time, it starts this rift between all the characters. And Rand goes out, decides he's going to shoot a bow. Perrin disappears for the rest of the episode, and Nynaeve goes and stalks Lan. So we get this nice little scene of Lan talking to Moraine, and Lan pretty much saying, I'm going to go, and he just starts talking with her. She starts saying it's nostalgic. I guess Moraine's worried that she's going to die, potentially, and she confronts Lan about his bond, and all this stuff, like small little bits. Like, again, there's stuff like references to book 2 in this, where we have bits of, Lan, is he really wanting to still be Moraine's warder? It's subtle, it's not stated outright, but you can tell with like the emotional performance that they're putting on. And Moraine states, don't you have people to go see before we leave tomorrow? And she sends Lan out, and then she tells him as he's walking away, by the way, I like the wisdom. So again, it's more akin to that warder and Aes Sedai bond, where they can kind of read each other's mind, and Moraine is being extremely invasive here, but at the same time, she's pointed it out several times, to Lan, that he's clearly getting feelings for a woman. And so Lan goes to visit some friends, and Nynaeve stalks him because she's tracking him, just like she did when she tracked him all the way to Shatter Logoth. And what ends up happening is Lan gets the jump on her and says, you can come in. And they kind of have a date, which is interesting. And it goes well, I guess, because, again, we don't get more, they don't get more explicit intimacy, but it's very clearly implied. And Lan and Nynaeve kiss. Now, this is another detraction from the books, and book purists are going to say, well, this doesn't happen until book 4. And it's true. It does not happen until book 4. But at the same time, my opinion is, let the story progress, because they're trying to tell the story of each character's arc. So let this be, because Lan and Nynaeve clearly had feelings for each other, And it was not very super well established in the first book. It was established at the end of the first book, but throughout the book, it kind of seems to come out of nowhere. It's great how they do it because it seems so subtle, and you can look back and see subtle bits of foreshadowing, but at the same time, it's not blatantly stated. I think that they've done a decent job of showing the emotional attachment between Lan and Nynaeve throughout the entire series. And then we have Rand decides he's going to go shoot his bow, and he can't focus. He cannot shoot the bow. He cannot hit the target right. He can't do anything, and he keeps getting angry about the situation. And what ends up happening is Egwene comes to him. Now, Egwene, as someone that has been with the same woman for very, very many years myself, I 100% agree with Rand's take on this, which is, I know, because she comes out and says, I was waiting for you to apologize, and he just snaps right back with the simplest quote, which honestly I might use in the future myself, which is, I know well enough after years of being with you that when you're ready to talk, you'll come talk to me. And that's so brilliant because it's really what couples do. And she comes to him and they talk. And Rand, they make a pact with each other that Rand will go with her to the White Tower. She can go to the White Tower to become an Aes Sedai. He'll become her warder. And if he's the dragon, she said that she'll be with him and she'll be by his side. Now, book readers know that this similar pact is also issued in the books, but it is not followed. So, again, there's some straying away, but apparently, everybody is going to bed decent. We don't get more on Perrin, which kind of annoys me. But the final bit that we get is Rand coming to the realization that he is the dragon. We get a snippet of bits. So let me just go over what happens. So Rand starts to have realizations of his past and what's going on. He starts to notice things that are out of place, things that have been subtly dropped as the series progresses. And I can imagine, as a never reader watching this for the first time, like getting these pulled back cuts of certain scenes. Again, Rand channeling the door open by channeling the power. Rand is the one who actually channeled in the ways, not Egwene. And Rand coming to the realization that he recognized the mountain in Tar Valon. So all these things, and apparently we get Rand's more of his revelations from Machin Chin, which is, you've always known it was you. You've always known that this is your destiny. So now Rand goes, confronts Min, and says, tell me I'm not the Dragon Reborn. And she, being Min, and this was probably part of my favorite bits of the episode, is Min just having her character and saying, you're not, just because that is Min's character. She's very flippant and she's very, non-authoritative. Like, she does not care who you are. She's very callous and will just tell you the truth. And so what we get is the revelation of what the child was that Min saw that looked like Rand was holding him. It wasn't Rand, it was Tam. And it was Tam holding a baby. And she knew from the second that she looked at him that he was the dragon, based on what she saw, because she stated it was the first vision that she saw, one of the first ones that she saw when she was a young girl in Tar Valon. Because you can see the White Tower in the background, we get a full cutaway to everything, we get a hypercut of the fever dreams from Winternight, which is what we were waiting on the entire time, and you get the revelation that Tam found Rand in the war next to the White Tower on the slopes of Dragonmount. And Rand is then having to face the fact that he is not only a male channeler, but he's the dragon. He's the one destined to save the world or end it. He is this entity. And all the book purists rejoice, right? Because they didn't make it Egwene. I don't know why. It's not a big deal. But the point is that we get the story as we remember it. But past everything else, we get a revelation from Min that's kind of awkward, which is when she says something about carnivals and 3 beautiful women. Now again, and rainbows. I don't get the rainbows reference, but Twitter on Twitter, apparently Wheel of Time replied to Matt Hatch from Dusty Wheel saying Val and Luca when it came to carnivals. So that's a stretch, because Val and Luca is one of the few characters in the books that Rand never actually meets, which is interesting. But past that, we get Rand going and telling Moraine that he's the dragon. He just states it to her. And the thing is that Rand, like in the books, when Rand declares himself the Dragon Reborn, no one else declares himself the Dragon Reborn for the remainder of the books. So I don't know if a similar effect is going to happen. I don't know if we're going to get a cut to potentially Logain like coming to realization that he's not the dragon in the next episode or something like that, because they have said that Logain's going to have an expanded role. But past that, Rand and Moraine go. Moraine masks her bond again, which we got clearly evident that she could do in the previous episode, and she goes with Rand into the Blight, which the Blight looks like an overgrown amount of nasty dead trees, which is pretty much exactly how it's described in the books. But we don't have our companions. No one is there except for Rand and Moraine. And I know that they're doing this to build up the tension because Rand does not want anyone else to die, and now that Moraine knows who the dragon is, she does not want anyone else to die as well. So between all this stuff going on, we have Lan and Nynaeve, Perrin, and Egwene possibly going to go to try to find Moraine and Rand entering into the Blight, and that's where we get the end of the episode. But like I said, there's so much in this episode. I mean, I didn't even mention Uno. We got another Wheel of Time curse. We got Bloody, and all that. We got to see Uno with his eye patch. Uno is a bloody blonde, as he stated on Twitter. But now I want to get into the favorite scene. So, the favorite scene for me, I mean, I could just say loyal, right? No, it's not loyal. But my favorite scene is just this. I'm trying to figure out, one more thing before my favorite scene. I'm trying to figure out what they're doing with Fane. Because immediately after Moraine says, you should go wall up the Waygate, they cut to the Waygate and Fane walks out. And Fane also walks through Faldara. Perrin brings up that he saw him, and Nynaeve says no, he died. But that's the thing, is that I don't know what they're doing. So I've heard theories that Fane is a Dreadlord, like he can channel. I've heard theories that Fane may be a Forsaken. I've heard theories that Fane may be a Mashadar, like itself, and Mashadar and Machin Chin are the same thing, potentially. Like, there's a whole lot of crazy, and like seeing people be able to theorize about Wheel of Time again is awesome. But Fane is being built up to be a much more significant villain, and they're making him a threat. And he has his leitmotif, like because they did the tune of the whistle that we've been hearing throughout the episodes. Every time that you get to do Fane spotting, we get the tune, but it's orchestrated now. We've never had that before, which means Fane is probably going to play a role in the next episode, because they can't leave it on the table. They can't just leave Fane not doing anything. But my favorite scene. So, favorite scene in this episode has got to be, honestly, it could be a toss-up between, like, getting to see the fever dream aspect of the episode pulled out was really cool, but it was so short, I can't give it my favorite scene. But it is a compilement of my favorite scene, which is Rand's revelation. Rand realizing that he's the dragon. Rand realizing that he is the chosen one in this aspect. And having those pullback cuts, and it's exactly what I've been saying I wanted. I've been wanting more context to situations that we've been seeing throughout the entire series. I've been wanting to see the characters from a different angle. And again, that's another thing that even Rafe has teased, where someone stated in a Reddit AMA, I can't believe we skipped the Trollocs and Fane and all that in the city of Shadar Logoth, and what's his name? Rafe blatantly stated, did we? And I'm waiting for that to be another revelation. I'm waiting to get this revelation of Fane, and Fane, us getting another cut like we did. The fact that they did it in this episode means that they can do it again. And I'm waiting for potentially the cold open of episode 8 being Fane's journey, from Fane's perspective, like getting the same like story but from another side of the camera. I think that'd be really cool. But my favorite scene in this entire episode is Rand's revelation. Rand coming to grips with the fact that he can channel, Rand realizing he's the dragon, Rand going to Min to confirm that he's the dragon, Rand getting to see Rand channel the 2 times, getting to see, everything with Rand's flashback to Dragonmount and the birth of him on the slopes, and also seeing Tam be there to be willing to help, this maiden give birth to her child. And, we also know that Rand's blood has been on that sword since the day he was born, because it's what was used to cut his umbilical cord. And the fact that the mother died right after, it's poetic, and it's exactly how it was in the story, except the fact that Tam assisted her, because it wasn't in the story. In the story, Rand was given birth by the mom, and then she covered him up in a blanket, and he was crying on the slopes, and she was dead next to him, which I kind of like how they did it in this a little better, because it immediately ties that attachment of Rand to Tam right away. I do think that we missed out a bit in not getting to see someone like Janduin or another one of the Aiel defending her, potentially, but getting to see her, like, again, I giggled and looked at my wife and said, could you imagine going through labor and trying to stab 6 guys? Like, it's a little insane. But no, the revelation is hands down the best part of this episode for me. There's the character acting. This episode just seemed like an avalanche of new information, like so much new budding relationships being mended. Perrin, that's the only shortcoming in this episode that I see is Perrin. Like, Perrin, we get little bits of him, but again, I've been really looking forward to his performance, but it just seems like they don't have a way for him directly to go right now, because you have Egwene and Rand, you have Nynaeve and Lan, you have Moraine, with Rand now to go to the Eye, you have Mat gone, and Perrin's just kind of, yeah. And I just want Perrin to do a little more, potentially, in the next episode. We'll see. Maybe more of his wolf senses will come out, or something along those lines. But aside from that, that's been my summary. So I'm going to try to get this up on YouTube as quick as I can, and I can't wait for the finale next week. And I'll see you guys then, all right? So have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.